my name is Maria. I'm the head chef of Bar Mordecai, and I'm here to present some of the dishes that we prepare in this kitchen. We're gonna start with the salad. We have some fresh radicchio and endives. Next is cornichon with the squash puree. The sweet potato that is roasted. We have some shata aioli, some fresh radishes and chives. And lastly, we have the kofta. That's chicken, and it has the crispiness of the fry-ums. That is the top, the colorful crispiness there.
Beautiful.
Delicious.
Okay,
Thank
enjoy.
you so much.
Thank you.
I feel like in many spaces where women necessarily haven't always been welcomed or taken the lead, they're now dominating sports, clearly being one. Why do you think we've seen that wave over the last couple of years?
I think generally we're a pretty progressive country, and it's taken us a while to get here on the sports side. We've, as Canadians, been watching women's sports in the U.S. for a while. When we look at the WNBA and the NWSL, and it's surprising it took us this long, but now I think, especially after the success of many of our female athletes at the international stage in the Olympics and World Championships, Canadians have become fans. Whether you think of Mary Fleet Poulin or Christine Sinclair, Kia Nurse, they've been icons in our country, and I think we're starting to open our eyes to what women's professional sport can look like.
Now what you have is the first generation, especially in the WNBA, you have the first generation of athletes that their entire lives, the WNBA has existed. They've never known a world where the opportunity to play professional basketball was never an option. And I think that really changes how people view, their future opportunities. And, there's still only 144 players that are going to ever make the WNBA, but it still gives people hope and something to be aspirational about, which then just provides a much greater pathway for people to participate. It just takes time, and over time you've seen it all evolve.
Why did it take so long to get to that place?
Well, I think first of all, it's not easy. What we've done over the last just over a year now, it's not easy to do, and it takes significant investment. And I think people had to change their minds into this being a business and it not being a charity. And so that's something that we've done, significant investment to get this off the ground. And now we're satisfying the demand that's out there for fans that want to see women's professional sport, and we've done it differently. And so I think you got to put the product in front of them, but you've got to do it right.
I think there's also now, we've had generations of women that have come before us that have been kind of clawing their way into the rooms where decisions are made in media or sports. So, they had to work their way in, and then it was kind of the next generation after them that was able to have a bit of a say. And so by the time we got here, when we're talking to companies or investors, there's actually women in the room now, which not that long ago there weren't, and it makes a huge difference, I think. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing too, data. When 5 years ago, there was basically no data around women's sport because there wasn't enough women's sport out there to get data, and no one was tracking it. So we had the CWHL, of course, we've had the WNBA, but CWHL was basically a charity model more than anything. But that started to shift the last few years. There started to be data. We started to get really clear trend in women's soccer where whenever you put women's professional soccer on broadcast television instead of on Twitch or Nowhere, or one time they tried Lifetime, that didn't work. But as soon as you put it on broadcast, the audience grows every year. So we could use data out of England, out of the US, which wasn't there 2-3 years before. And we could use data too on franchise value, that women's professional sport has the same business model as men's sport. Year-over-year profits for a professional sport team are quite hard. In men's too. Actually, 70% of men's professional soccer clubs lose money every year. And women were never allowed to lose money every year. But it's the team asset, that growing valuation that grows every year. And we started to get data out of the NWSL, the US League, that showed owners bought in 2012 for $150,000, and then in 2022, average franchise value was $66 million. And Angel City just got new investors this past year that brought their franchise value to $250 million. So we had numbers that we could then bring to the market, which honestly, 3-4 years ago, there were no numbers out there for us to use to dispel any of the myths and biases around women's sport. And now we can't keep track of the numbers, and it's really annoying because we have to change our pitch deck every 2 weeks because of all the numbers.
We're getting so much data. It's incredible. And I think the point you made about the fandom around women's sports and how it's unique has really changed how people view the commercial opportunity around women's sports. That's taken a huge leap forward in progress of how the fans are different. They're loyal, they're younger, they're more educated. They're more likely to engage with the brands that support the teams that they support. So now we just need these like really, really valuable fans to grow. So it's just a matter of getting the league and teams and women's sports as total just like greater exposure because our fans are so invested and so valuable.
And for soccer, like we're in this global landscape. There's dozens of other women's pro leagues, and most of the ways they got started was through men's soccer money. And there's still a lot of leagues and clubs around the world where it's men's soccer owners that are making decisions for women's soccer clubs. And a lot of them aren't yet making the best decisions. So we've got a harder road, but we get to control our own destiny. We're in control of what we're making. And in Canada, we're like, I think we don't see this in Canada. Canadians don't see it, but I think we get to experience more of the world in women's pro sport, and we have one of the best women's pro sport markets in the world. Like the US is probably number one, but we're right up there. And especially after 2026, when Toronto Tempo is in market too, after this year when we're in market with PWHL, like one of the best fan bases in the world. We get to control our own destiny at the beginning of an industry. Like women's pro sport is still new, and we're getting in, and we get to shape the thing versus men in sport putting some money towards women's sport.
It's interesting how it's staggered. Start now year 2, spring 2025, spring 2026. You have the war stories of starting first, but were there learnings? Have there been learnings from you guys on what was done in the hockey space?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? We have a continual dialogue with the Scepters and the PWHL and the league side. There's so much we can learn from each other. I mean, it's different sports, but it's the same market. It's women's sports. We're trying to sell tickets. We're trying to sell merch. We're trying to get partnerships. There's so much to learn from each other. So what's great is that it's always been open. Like every time I call, they answer, and we like to think we're doing the same in return. So it's been a great community to be part of, for sure.
I think women's pro sport passed $1 billion globally this past year, but that's, again, just getting started. And we all understand the bigger we grow this global market, everyone gets bigger. And there's still lots to do there. Grow the fan base, because again, there's lots of crossover. Grow the sponsorship base. There's still way more companies, Canadian companies, that need to get behind women's sport. And there's still the number that'll say, oh, you know what? We've checked the women's sport bucket, we're going to invest in WNBA. And we're like, how many men's sport properties do you invest in? Oh, it's a number of them. Okay, you can do better than just one here. Like, it's not check the box and go. It's like, get involved and get your budgets in.
What has allowed you guys all to support and collaborate so well?
I just think it's being fans of each other and knowing that we're broadening the pot together. And our fans are similar. We run opposite seasons, which I think, for us is a benefit. But I've always had this vision of like the Toronto women's sports fan that is like all 3 teams, right? The Scepters, the Tempo, and AFC. And how cool that is. It's going to be an incredibly loyal group of people.
It's all not easy, though, I imagine. There's, sure, war stories that you all share. What have the pain points been?
I mean, I don't like to dwell on because there's so many great things happening, but the pain points are the things that have like held women's sports back for forever, right? So playing catch up. There's an established fandom around men's sports teams at 100 years old. We're starting from scratch. Like just exposure. Toronto Tempo, people never heard of that before, right? There's a large portion of the population just has never heard of the Toronto Tempo. But we're working on it. But overall, there's going to be things that are hard, but there's so many positive things happening right now and so much positive momentum. I just try to really lean into that. And there's going to be naysayers. There's going to be people that don't see the value in it. But then you just go and you find the people that are partners, the people that do see it, and get them on board. And the good thing is there's a lot of people like that out there now, whether it's fans, corporate Canada, broadcasters. There's a lot of people now who see the value because of all the things that have happened in the marketplace. So get on the ship with them. Other people will stick in the background.
All right, let's go around the table.
Okay.
If there's one word
One.
Yes, you'd want people to use when describing their experience and their relationship with your league or franchise. What would it be?
To think of one word for the Northern Super League, I'm going to go partner. And the reason being, like, again, we're building from scratch. We have to get a fan base to recognize our team names and clubs and leagues from nothing. And we get to build a lot of that with the fans, and we get their feedback. That was like 312 words to describe the word partner.
I like it. What about you, Jayna?
I would say bold. Thinking about the history of how our league started, so like, the courageous efforts of the players to stand up and decide that they weren't going to just be satisfied with what currently existed and really push this forward. To how we launched, most people thought not possible to launch in that amount of time, and we weren't afraid to be bold and say we're doing it and we're going to drop the puck January 1st, 2024. And then I think not being afraid to be different. We're trying to reinvent the way our fans see the game and the entertainment we put on the ice. So I think just generally just that willingness to be bold and be different and be a risk taker.
What about you, T?
I'm going to go with joy. Like, I think that coming to a game should be joyful, and I was like, bold is really good too. I might steal that one, but I hope that the Toronto Tempo, when people think of that, they think of joy and the joy the team brings and the joy they feel being part of it, being partners, and the bold things that we're going to do.
Well, it's awesome because I and my little boys are beneficiaries of the partnership between all of you, the bold decisions that you've all made, and you're going to give Canadians a lot of joy. So thank you. I hope it's joyful to be doing that hard work, but it's much appreciated.
Thanks. It's fun.
Thanks for the conversation and the meal.
Anytime.